The Trump train of change is proving to be a bullet train, and many people want off the ride. Calls to deport Elon intensify as Trump authorizes the shutdown of USAID, a potential CIA front. Dems openly defy the president. Trump and Netanyahu agree Palestinians will not be returning to Gaza anytime soon. Deepfakes get an upgrade with Omnihuman, and more crazy tales from the mean streets of modern dating. Drew, every day is like a month, man. It is getting crazy. The amount of stuff that we get to feast upon in terms of what's happening in the world is crazy. These first 100 days are proving to be
ridiculous.
A whole thing.
Ridiculous. I thought we already hit his 100 days. I'm like, oh no, this is week 3? Wow, okay.
Yeah.
He hasn't even gotten close.
This is a marathon at a sprinter's pace.
There are not short of people getting pissed off with USAID.
For sure.
He literally closed the headquarters to staff. And I want to flip to Mike Benz, right? Yeah, I want to flip to Mike Benz because he had the most scathing take of USAID. And I think this is a good jumping off point for our conversation.
I think what's happening at USAID is essentially an echo of that, which is that USAID is supposed to be untouchable. I mean, virtually, there's no USAID project on God's green earth that is honest. If we are irrigating the rivers, or irrigating the agricultural fields in a country, it's because we're trying to control the territory there. If we are working on the water supply, it's because we're trying to control the rivers. If we're working on famine relief, it's because we're trying to control the food supply and make inroads into the indigenous populations there. If we are helping them write their constitution and go through democratic legal reform, it's so that we can control their laws. Every single thing USAID does is dual purpose. It's dual purpose by charter. They're only allowed to do the things that advance U.S. foreign policy interest. And we just put a little bow on top of it and we say, in the process, we're making the world a better place. Because it's it's going to these humanitarian groups who are administering this thing, which in the process will help U.S. foreign interests. But the fact is the worst scandals in American statecraft in the 1960s and 70s and maybe early 80s were the CIA. In recent years, the worst scandals in American statecraft have been USAID, from funding the Wuhan lab to growing heroin in Afghanistan and irrigating the poppy fields, to setting up fake Twitter in Cuba with an explicit USAID document saying that the plan is to have algorithms favoring sports news and hurricane updates. And then once we have enough people, switch to get them to hate their government and topple their government and take to the streets in smart riots, to them even using public health HIV prevention clinics as undercover for USAID workers doing intelligence work to get people to overthrow their governments. And this gets me to another point that I'd feel remiss if I didn't say, because I've been thinking about it.
I feel like he could have went on for another hour. Like, how do you feel about USAID as a CIA front? Or
okay, so I think the real story here is the collision of bringing transparency to the government and what that's going to create when you have, from time immemorial, the whole idea is that you get a group of elites that control the narrative. They do not want the public to be aware of what's going on. They will cloak it in nice sounding things like, hey, we're doing this for your own good. We're going to lead us all somewhere positive. And the reality is that it does really seem to be that there is architecture in the human mind where you are always, and I mean always, going to get a small group of people that ultimately lead the country. This is the whole idea behind representative democracy instead of a direct democracy, that it just doesn't work that way, that logistically getting everybody together, even just to cast their vote, is next to impossible. Most people don't pay attention. And so it really does seem to be that the way that the human mind is built, you are going to end up with a group of elites. I know I talk about this book a lot, but if you want to make sense of this moment, you've got to read the book, The Machiavellians, Defenders of Freedom. I don't often say that second part, by James Burnham. And in it, it talks about this man is political animal, that there are going to be lies, there are going to be manipulations. It is all part of the way that you move the masses. And it makes this really compelling argument that you couldn't possibly ever have a populace that is governed by pure scientific truth, because people they're not going to be aware of it. Not everybody's going to be able to understand it. Science is changing all the time. And so even if you're making your best attempt to only say what is factually accurate, you're never going to get there. And even if you could get there, people won't be able to digest it. That is what you're seeing right now, is you have Elon going on a rightful crusade, and I do not use that word accidentally, going on a rightful crusade to bring transparency to the government, to show the American public these are your dollars being spent. You should absolutely be able to see where they go. But as he goes in, maybe not even knowing what some of these organizations actually do, he realizes, oh God, like I've kicked a hornet's nest. Why are people responding so violently to this? And then you get insiders like that who are like, hey, the reason people are freaking out is because this is a front for the CIA or CIA-like operations. And so then all of a sudden you're like, wait, is Alex Jones just not crazy and he's just early to all of this stuff? And what we are going to find out, especially hearing that part about the thing that we were doing in Cuba, trying to create these, what did he call them? Digital riots? Riots, virtual riots, something like that. And I thought, this is what we're mad at ByteDance and TikTok for, is we know that this works because we're doing it in other countries. And so suddenly all of these clandestine playbooks of how you manipulate the masses are all coming into stark relief because we're actually creating transparency in the government. And so this is one of those, it is the right thing to do, but in an age where information travels as fast as it does, it is going to create really weird reactions as we go through a transitional time and figure out what does the new elite class, if it is truly architecture of the human mind, you're not going to escape it. What does the new elite class look like in this age? Are they bringing that transparency? Do we find that they have to reinvent, oh God, like quickly we have to go back to, well, these things are clandestine, but then you can't tell people that they're clandestine. So you got to find some way. And do we just end up back here where it's this cycle of transparency, hide, transparency, hide? I don't know. But that witnessing this all happen in real time because of the velocity of change that Trump is making is fascinating. Now, my wife has done detoxes, like she does this thing called Ibu. I think it's called Ibu. And every time she does it, she is knocked on her ass for like a day and a half. It's like she's been hit by a freight train. And the explanation that they give her is that basically you're going in there and imagine a nice, still little pond, and you go stir up all the mud in an effort to get it all out. And so now it's all traveling through your system and you're discombobulated. That's what this feels like, is maybe this is exactly how you have to detox or drain the swamp, is you have to go in and do this. But whoa, the things that you're going to kick up, they're going to be unexpected things. Agencies that operate in a way that you don't expect. There are going to be agencies that when you get in, like Elon's initial take on this, I don't know if he's still there, but I mean, this is only a few hours ago. But as a few hours ago, he was saying that this is, when you look at USAID, you don't find an apple with a worm in it, you find a bowl of worms. If it were an apple with a worm in it, you can just take the worm out. But when you go and you find there is no apple, this is just worms, now all of a sudden, all you can do is start over. And Trump has said, yes, cool. If it's not doing anything useful, we're going to shut it down. And then you get the crazy outcry that you're getting. Now, people are saying, oh, that's just corruption, it's graft, it's people fraudulently spending taxpayer dollars. Is it going to be that? Is it going to be mostly that, all that, partially that, some like clandestine things we actually want them doing, clandestine things that are huge scandals? Unknown at this point, but man, it is not going to be a smooth ride when you turn the lights on and you see all the cockroaches. But the thing I really want to drive home is, were the cockroaches doing something useful? And so I don't know. This is not me standing up for USAID. I don't know about it. I just know that you're not going to be able to both be 100% transparent and run campaigns of subterfuge. At some point, you say to the people, I can't tell you about this one. This one's in a black box. You don't get a look inside of it. And that invites all the conspiracy theories. That invites a place for people to hide things. And so this is going to be really rocky, especially when you factor in the response that Elon is getting way more than Trump for doing all of this stuff.
And let's jump right into that, because some of these videos I was expected by how visceral those responses were. So the first one we have is Elizabeth Warren outside of Capitol Hill.
No one elected Elon Musk to nothing. Not one Democrat in America voted for Elon Musk. Not one Republican in America voted for Elon Musk. Not one independent in America voted for Elon Musk. Not one libertarian in America voted for Elon Musk. Damn, not one vegetarian in America. And yet, Elon Musk is seizing the power that belongs to the American people. We are here to fight back.
AOC.
This dude is probably one of the most unintelligent billionaires I have ever met or seen or witnessed.
It just surprised me that, like, especially with Elizabeth Warren, she's sitting on those steps. She's talking about that Elon is taking power from the American people to grab power for himself when he's abolishing a department. I feel like I get the rhetoric. What he's, I can understand if he was saying we're going to shut down the
Department of Education.
That's next.
Coming next.
But it's just like it's a foreign aid campaign. So how is foreign aid helping the American people? And somebody's going to say, well, it's for security, it's for this, it's all these other things. But you're acting like he's taking Social Security benefits or he's taking Medicare benefits away from people directly. It just seems like smoke and mirrors. Do you think that this response is like warranted?
No, not at all. So when Schwarzenegger went into office, he had a really interesting insight about politics that at the time I was not paying attention to politics at all, but I've always found him to be a fascinating figure. And he said, oh, politics is kabuki theater. They're not interested in getting something done. They're interested in putting on a big show, having their name in the paper, standing up and fighting for something. And so everybody has an agenda. Everybody's going to fight for their agenda, but they are not going to fight for their agenda by saying what they believe to be true. Now, and so what you're seeing here is an appeal to emotion. It's really brilliant. If you appeal to people's emotions, you are far more likely to get them to do what you want than if you appeal to logic. 1,000%, over and over and over. It is terrifying to me that that is true, but that really is humans. And I was telling this story earlier, so forgive me if you've heard this before, but this is really, really shocking to me. In my own life, people very close to me who've seen the way that I manage my emotions, not that I don't have emotions, not that I stuff them down, that I have a healthy distrust for them. And I say, ooh, this thing is giving me this really strong emotion. I want to understand why I'm having this emotion. Once I can identify the cause of what's making me feel that, then I can decide, oh, is this useful or not? Now, you have to have emotions. They're the only way that you can make decisions and all of that. You just don't have to let them lead you around by the nose. Now, despite people very close to me seeing that and seeing the success that I've had in my life, from a solid marriage to what I've done in business, all of that, they still will get angry if you don't validate their emotions. That's how in the grips of emotions people are. And even I find myself sometimes like just so caught by an emotion that I'm like, whoa, I'm really having to work to step outside of that and take a more functional approach, which is my thing. I don't expect people to adopt it, but I think anybody that does is crazy. But that is, I get it. Not everybody's going to view the world that way. But that's what I see here. I see politicians, one, that have strong emotions and realize that by leveraging the emotions of others, they're able to not say anything. Like, what exact power in USAID do you think Elon is capturing for himself? Like you said, in shutting down that department, what is the specific benefit to him? So if he were going in, like, and he will do some of this stuff, and this I will understand, like if he's going into whoever oversees SpaceX or whoever oversees Starlink, Neuralink, all of those, and he starts like dismantling those, okay, you see how that benefits him, and I would totally get people having a stroke over that. But this one, it's just a constant appeal to emotion. And when you get AOC saying that he's dumb, that's where I'm like, what is happening right now? You can hate Elon, but to say that he's dumb is nonsensical, because nobody has been more efficient, more effective with their intellect than Elon. Nobody. There might be other people in history. People probably point to somebody like Newton, who invented calculus just to answer his own questions. It's like, okay, that's pretty amazing. But he's in a pretty small pantheon. Yeah. He's effectively alone as an entrepreneur in terms of being able to replicate over and over and over in the hardest industries I can imagine that kind of success. And when the argument is that he's stupid, either that person is not able to accurately interpret the world because you've got an emotion, you don't like what he's doing, but instead of translating that into, okay, what's causing me to not like it? Your brain hands you a lie, which is, oh, he's dumb, and you spout that. Now, if you think I'm making that up, let me tell you a real story. The following is a true study that demonstrates the way the human mind works. If you take somebody like the movie Memento, they can't form short-term memories. You have a doctor walk in their white lab coat, they have a pin in their hand. They go to shake this person's hand. It pokes them in the hand. That person will jerk their hand back and be like, why'd you do that? Doctor will then leave the room, waits the 3 minutes for this guy to reset because he doesn't have the memory. He will walk in. That person will not remember meeting the doctor. They stick their hand out to shake their hand and they won't shake it. So the question becomes, why? So they ask, why won't you shake my hand? Oh, well, I've always had this weird thing about people in white lab coats. No, you haven't. You got poked in the hand the last time you did this, and there's a different region of your brain that codes for that kind of danger. That part of your brain is still able to form memories. So you have this emotional response to this person you don't understand. Your brain it abhors that vacuum of like, I have no reason. I don't know why I'm doing this. So it just makes one up and hands it to you, and you say it as if there was nothing else. It is entirely possible that she doesn't know that that is the most absurd answer of all time. She had an emotion. I don't like what's happening. Her brain handed her a reason for why. He's dumb, and we're letting dumb people in the government. And she just says it. I don't know. It could be, she could be playing 4D chess and she's manipulating her constituents. I doubt it. My gut is that she had a very strong emotion. Mm-hmm. Her brain handed her a reason why she's having it. And we are going to see this play out at an ever increasing volume. You and I were talking about this. I know we're going to get more into this as we go deeper into the episode, but I just want to plant in people's minds this idea of right now in American history, we are driving in the snow. Somewhere under that snow is a whole lot of black ice. And the second you hit that black ice, your tires are going to give. Mm-hmm. Now, are they going to give a little and then you recatch and you're fine? Or are they going to let go? And when your tires let go, all of a sudden you go from feeling like you're in control at a reasonable speed and you realize, oh shit, we're going really fast and I don't have any way to stop this. When I see people on the 101 freeway here in Los Angeles protesting immigration reform, when I see people protesting what he's doing with the US aid, when people talk about deporting Elon, when they talk about imprisoning Elon, I'm like, this ratchets up. We're in the first 3 weeks of the 4 years, first of all, and then we're in the first 3 weeks of even just this 100 days of just going as fast as you can, disrupting as much as possible. And this is one where, man, look, there is a rate of change that people can metabolize, and there's a rate of change that they can't. Now, because I've not lived through this before, I don't know if this is like, yeah, we're going to be fine and this is great, because I love change. So none of this freaks me out. But what freaks me out is the reaction. And the reaction is so big, I don't know where the theater could trigger that populace response. Because I want to remind everybody that while Trump won the popular vote, he won the popular vote by a slim margin of the people who voted. And so having no idea what the people believe that didn't vote at all, I don't know over time how emotional appeals, which you will get a lot of from the Democrats, because that is an incredible weapon. I don't know if that gains enough, if it sparks a fire that grows far enough that it does feel like the whole engine of momentum that we have now becomes a car on black ice and we just start spinning. So again, we've got more stuff where we'll get into the specifics of why I think that later. But this is a fascinating moment. And I'd be lying if I said I wasn't excited, but I can
You're excited
feel
about the
something.
cuts happening, or like something like USAID being exposed?
I firmly believe there is no path forward other than transparency. Period. End of story. I think we are at the end of the era of big government. Information travels too fast. And your only way to stop information is by authoritarian top-down control. I will quite literally give my life to make sure that doesn't happen. Now, if there are other people that feel as strongly about it as I do, all of a sudden now it's like, okay, you're at the red line that some people just are not going to be willing to cross. And so for better or worse, AI exists. It's going to make information travel even faster. Both real, miss, mal, all the informations. They're going to travel lightning fast.
Whatever information you describe.
Exactly. Whichever one you want is now traveling at lightning speed. And social media obviously facilitates that incredibly. We now have the technology that we need to summarize a bill rapidly so you can't hide things in 1,000 pages anymore. We are, at least in this moment, we've managed to convince the most effective entrepreneurs of our time to rally around the government, to take roles in the government. We've convinced some of our brightest engineers, largely because of Elon and how many engineers want to work for him, to go look at these problems with an engineering eye, again, totally blind to the emotional responses that they're going to get. I don't know if you saw the doxing that happened of the engineers, the really young engineers that Elon has working for him at Doge. And people were calling for them to be killed, man. Like it's crazy. Like posting their addresses and saying people like that are doing this, I don't even know what they thought this is, but people that are doing this should fear for their lives. That is a quote. So
it's been sad to your point of like the people that are finding the inefficiencies and they're high-fiving like, oh, hey, we just saved the American taxpayer $100 million because we ended this contract.
They're getting close. I think they're north of $1 billion a day.
Yeah, it's crazy. And yet, to your point, there's this emotional, visceral reaction as if they're doing something bad or with malice intent.
Yes.
Like, you know, it's weird how they go to it.
It's very weird, but I also think, okay, you know, my whole thing. Hey, what's it all come back to, everybody? Can we guess? Money printing. That's right. Inflation. Hiding underneath all of this is the reality that some very distressing percentage of the jobs that have been created that we were supposed to believe are feeding this incredible economy were all in the government sector. And so you have Trump and Elon attacking government sector jobs. When you put something like USAID out of business, those are people now that just lost their jobs. And so I think there are a lot of people that have really grown accustomed to a worldview that says the job of the government is to give me things. The job of the government is to make sure I don't have to worry about getting sick, that nothing bad happens to me there. I don't have to worry about retiring. That's going to be taken care of for me there. That I don't have to worry about dips in the economy, that I don't have to worry about anything, that the government's going to have my back. It's all good, both here and internationally, by the way. They're also going to take care of the environment, like just everything all at once. And once you have that worldview, when somebody comes in and says, hold on, the dollars are finite. You cannot continue to run up these debts because then you have to take the finite dollars, turn them into infinite dollars, which is known as inflation. That inflation becomes an insane problem. It is the reason that you feel like you can't get ahead. It is the reason that you're getting angry. And you have somebody with a political platform yelling and screaming, saying, no, don't look at that. Look at this guy who's trying to steal your money by shutting these things down. Dude, hopefully people don't bite. Hopefully people can really begin to put the pieces together of how the world actually works. But I think it is far more likely that people lean into emotion. We'll get back to the show in just a minute, but first, while everyone else is paying taxes on their crypto gains, the smartest investors are using iTrust Capital's Roth IRA to grow their wealth tax-free. After what happened in crypto in 2022, you all know security matters. iTrust Capital keeps client funds off balance sheet and are never commingled. Never, ever. Your investments are held in regulated custodial accounts completely separate from their business. They've also eliminated all the barriers of a traditional Roth IRA. No monthly fees, just straightforward pricing, 1% for crypto transactions, and transparent rates for precious metals. Plus, you can buy or sell 24/7. As part of our collaboration with iTrust Capital, they're offering our community an exclusive bonus. Use code IMPACT when you sign up and fund your account to get a $100 bonus. Just click the link in the show notes and use code IMPACT. Don't miss out on tax-free gains. Choose iTrust Capital. This has been a paid promotion. Now, back to the show.
110%. And I think Senator Kennedy had kind of the best response out of this. It
I
was
know
ruthless.
the clip we're about to play.
It was ruthless, but I mean, take it or leave it. He said it with his chest.
To my friends who are upset, I would say with respect, call somebody who cares. They better get used to this. It's USAID today. It's going to be Department of Education tomorrow.
I think it's the accent that does it for me, but tomorrow.
Yeah, I did like that. And that really high voice. I'm not going to lie. He's out of central casting. Like, this is amazing.
Okay, so we talked about USAID.
Well, hold on. You going to let that go unaddressed?
No, we're coming back to this because he said Department of Education tomorrow. Now,
Yes.
USAID, I got my gripes about. I seen some shady things they did under the Haiti response a bunch of years ago. So USAID, I'm like, all right, I'm sorry. Other countries, we can't babysit you no more. My bad. We do a bad job anyway. A lot of it goes to NGOs and it gets funneled corruptly. I get that.
Yeah. And P.S. we were trying to overthrow your government and control your water supply.
Yeah, and we set up fake vaccine camps because we're trying to get closer to the Taliban. Like, all these things.
Yep.
However, Department of Education, I think, is going to elicit a bunch of different emotional responses. What do you say to the abolition of the Department of Education?
Ooh, okay. So on that one, I will really have to look into what has it done for us and what are going to be the consequences of getting rid of it. Now, when I look at how we were internationally as an educational standard and nationally before, we were doing better than we are after whatever 40, 50 years of having it. So as somebody who looks at things by what is the outcome that it produces, it is producing all the wrong things. Now, I'm very aware of the tripwire, though, of the reason it was put in place. Now, again, I believe any system, you can say its effective design is the output that you get. So the effective design of the Department of Education is to degrade the quality of American education. That's what actually happened. Okay, but the intent was, hey, we have a really racist nation, and there are ways that people can go in and they can steal money from one jurisdiction and give it to another, one school district and give it to another, and we can't have that. So it's like, okay, banger desire, horrific outcome. So now what do? I think everybody's heard me say this a bazillion times, school choice. It's crazy that we don't have school choice. It's absolutely crazy. I'm also wildly offended if you're not able to fire somebody who's underperforming. And from what I have seen, it is very hard to fire an underperforming teacher, underperforming administrators in an underperforming district. Like it is crazy. So my shoot from the hip response is that if you explain to people how you are going to make sure that their children are going to be educated better without the Department of Education, you can get people behind it. But dude, people do not suffer fools when it comes to their kids. This election, in no small part, was because parents were feeling like, hold on, I'm not behind the trans stuff. You're freaking me out. You're treating me like a domestic terrorist when I go to complain inside the school boards. Fuck with me, fuck with my money, fine. You fuck with my kids, you're going to find out. And so, dude, people just do not play when it comes to their kids. So whether it's true or not, if they perceive a billionaire advisor to the president and a billionaire president who can afford and are schooling their children in private education, are waddling up to the White House and axing the one thing designed to protect their kids, they're going to feel some kind of way. So there is a big sales job to be had there, regardless of whether or not I'm right that you'd be better off without it. If people think for a second that you are going to make their child's education worse, they are going to freak out.
I think it's interesting because, to your point, we went from 1st to 34th in education internationally.
I think it at some point dipped lower than that. Trump today was saying we're 40th.
Sheesh.
Is he right? I don't know. But
At that point, Department of Education is also responsible largely for student loans, which makes money for the government, which is the most ickiest thing I can ever think about. It doesn't make sense that we are charging our citizens to get a higher education and we're making a profit off of it. If we were just saying, hey man, I gave you $1,000, give me $1,000 back, we're cool with it. But we're saying, hey, we'll give you $1,000, but you got to give me back $1,200. And that's the thing that's like, we're in your country, we're doing this for you, we still pay taxes, and yet we're still getting kind of like hit at the knees. So I have my gripes with the Department of Education, but to say that we're going to cut it and give school choice vouchers, I don't think that's the solution either. And I think that we really need a fundamental day one
what's
rebuild.
your beef with school vouchers?
Okay. So before I moved to California, I was in Arizona. Arizona is school choice capital. Governor Ducey was the model for it in the country. What we saw happen is that they opened it up that anybody can get a voucher. You just have to kind of sign up and apply. What they seen happen was instead of lower income students moving to private schools, a lot of private school students were getting their education subsidized. So people who are already paying the $25,000 are now paying $9,500 because they got the $14K.
Is it because they don't change schools?
It's because they're still in the same school. But because now that it's applied to the voucher to a private school, it unlocked another income stream kind of for the parent. So instead of it being like, you are in this lower underperforming school district, you get the voucher, you could go wherever you want. A majority of people are like, oh, this school is now eligible for that voucher. I'm just going to use.
I get that part, but now, we just subsidize rich kids. Cool. Got it. I don't think it's bad if everybody gets the same. So whatever, I don't have a beef with that. Yeah. But now zoom in for me on you have the choice to go to a different school, but you don't because you can't afford transportation. Why aren't they going to a better school?
Public schools weren't applicable for it, and there's a certain area like they're not part of the school choice.
What?
So you can only it was a very weird thing. That's what I'm saying. They were funneling people to charter and private schools and saying public education we're already like doing. So this is the base model.
What?
If you want this education,
there's no way. We're gonna have to look this up.
I will Governor Ducey it right now, and that's why it was a pilot program. They were gonna launch it. They were gonna launch it nationally.
Let me
they didn't.
Let me re-say what I hear you saying. Well, public schools already paid for, so we don't need to give you vouchers for that. You guys are good. But the private school kids, we're going to give you vouchers so that you can pay for private school.
In a different way. If you're going to a public school, it's already government funds. I don't need to give you a voucher for it. It's already free to go. You can just go to a different public school.
But you could go to a different
You could go to a different public school. But if all the public schools are shitty, because Arizona is like 48th in the state, so you want to go to a charter or a private, and then that's where it's add additional layer.
Okay.
Yes.
So now I'm fully understanding that they're saying it doesn't matter what public school you go to, those are going to be funded presumably based on the number of students that choose that school.
Yeah.
Got it. Here's why I would need to look deeper into see what's actually happening, because there's, as we were talking about previously, there's a big gap between what something was designed to do and then the functional design.
Understood.
But the idea behind school vouchers is to put evolutionary pressure on schools to compete for the best students so that parents go, this school is shit. All of their metrics, reading levels, graduation levels, what college they go to, it's all terrible. And I need a way to cast a vote. And casting a vote by moving to a new district is too brutal. So I need the ability to stay where I'm at, live where I'm at, but take my kids somewhere else. Okay, I like that a lot. Now, when you look at what some of the charter schools are doing, I always say that this is Jeffrey Canada. I cannot remember for the life of me if it's actually Jeffrey Canada or another charter school, but if I can just round everything to Jeffrey Canada, because I love him and this thing is amazing, that they would start, I'm pretty sure they were KIPP schools. They would start a KIPP school in the same building as a normal public school that's just underperforming wildly. They would choose the students for the KIPP version of the school at random. So it wasn't like, oh, you had to apply, and so only the kids with parents that were focused enough to apply. So there was literally there's nothing other than random lottery for whether you were one of the kids that got to go to the charter school in the same building, or whether you were one of the kids that went to the normal school in the same building. What was the difference? The teachers and the way by which they hold them to certain expectations, the way that they teach them, the way that they interact with them. And dude, the results from the charter schools were insane. Like, these are directionally correct numbers. They're not literal, but it's like 85 or 90%. They graduate and go to college. I mean, just testing well, doing good, finishing high school, just insane. And dramatically better than what's going on, again, in that same building, just random selection. That tells me that the culture of the school matters a lot. Whether they can fire teachers that are underperforming, the kind of expectations that they set for the kids. Like, when you walk in on day one, you're going to college. Like, they just drill that into you. And you can imagine in a low income area, they may never have heard that before. They may never have thought of going to college before. And so it's just this totally different vision of their future that they drill into them over and over and over. And if you don't meet standards, I'm pretty sure they cut you. So it's like, you have to hit standards. You've got to do what they expect. But if you do, boom, the world opens up to you. So that's my whole thing with when I look at some of the way that we approach the government and the whole idea of no kid left behind and just compassion for all is, yes, it fills your heart, but it doesn't, by way of functional design, yield what you want it to yield. This is like the parent that never disciplines their child, never sets any boundaries, never holds them to expectations. You can't fire a parent, but you can fire a teacher, but we don't. People are going to say, of course we do. Yes, for like super egregious stuff. But this is where I feel that I should point out, my mom worked in a school district for like 30 years or something crazy. So I'm not exactly a stranger to the way that schools work.
My sister's a teacher as well. I love her to death. There are terrible teachers all around. Yeah. Like, my daughter has
not only terrible, let's be very clear. I don't think that's what you're saying.
But like, my daughter has had terrible teachers. So I'm definitely, this is my gripe, right? Because we have different ideas about government in this specific area. For me, there should be a Department of Education. It should regulate how the kids in America are taught. However, it shouldn't be the system that we're using now. I think we need a day one rebuild.
Do you want a federal system, or would you be cool if it was handled at the state level?
I think it should be a federal system.
Interesting.
And the reason I think it should be a federal system is I think we need to borrow a book from China. We need China kids. We need Japan kids. We need Korea kids.
Damn! You heard it here first. We need China kids. Somebody put that on a chyron, please, and make sure you only show it when you're showing Drew.
Like, it needs to be regimented. Just as parents are expected to work and take care and provide, like, kids over there are expected to work and like provide, but like work and have actual results.
They're hardcore.
Yeah. And that's
China
the thing.
Does not play.
The state level is great, but that is also code for states that don't care aren't going to care about it. And states that do care are going to go super crazy for it. I grew up in Jersey. I just went to the public school that was close to me. I didn't realize how good my school was until I left into a different state. I was like, oh wow, all these schools are shit. I was just in a good area. I was lucky enough, and
under a federal system, by the way.
Under a federal, and I was super blue in Jersey, so it wasn't like this was some like one-off like independent bootstrap school. Like, this was the mandate from the top down. So I have seen an education system go right, and I have seen it being left to the states and gone wrong. So that's why my thing is,
so
you could take away EPAs, you could have oil and waters, and I will talk to Bobby Kennedy, and we'll get somebody to fix that. But like, education, don't mess around with. Like, that should be the thing.
I agree. Don't mess around with it. So my thing goes like this. You were in a federal system, and in that federal system, there were wildly unequal results. And so I don't think you're ever going to be able to get rid of the unequal results. What you're going to be able to create is the ability for people to move from place to place. Now, the reason I want to see it done at the state level is because I think the whole idea of government is the government is going to be trash. All of its incentives are wrong. It gets the money from the taxpayer no matter what by threat of violence and imprisonment. They are going to get paid. And when you do not have to earn your revenue, you are going to underserve people. It just is what it is. So the more that you can drive that kind of decision-making down to the local level, the better off you're going to be. That way we start to see, wait a second, if we do it at the state level, which might be worse than at the district level, but let's just say that we do it at the state level. If you do it at the state level, people look around and they go, just like so many people have fled California because they hate the regulatory environment, they hate the tax environment. They're just like, I can leave and still be in America. And so I fully understand that moving is a big ask, but I don't see any way around the evolutionary pressure. And meaning that way, if you go do the thing that you need to do to signal to this system that it's bad, that you're able to do that. the more local you make it, the less onerous it is on somebody to vote with their feet and move to go somewhere else or to drive their kids somewhere else. Whereas if it's at the federal level, there's nowhere to escape other than a different country, which yikes. At the state level, at least there's other states. At the county level, there's other counties. That's a lot easier. At the district level, it really gets easy. So it still sucks. It's still brutal that unfortunately the world requires evolutionary pressures to get better. I just don't see a way around it in the real world because we're ultimately going to be left in the real world. So for me, government effectively always bad at any creating formal structures, running a company. That's really what I want to say. I know everyone's going to say it's not a company, but if you think of it like that, you're going to get a lot closer to why I think it's problematic. They're bad at efficiency. They're bad at KPIs. And then just local, so that it is the least amount of onerous to move and thusly apply evolutionary pressure to the school. It's like, whoa, why is everybody leaving?
Yes or no? Is it good if the Department of Education is abolished? Feet to the fire. I know.
Yeah. I'll give you an answer because
I
I hate it when politicians dodge, but then I am going to flesh out my answer. Yes, it's good because the current Department of Education has not yielded a good result. It was better before we had it. So just starting from that, you're better off. But as much as I was giving you a hard time about the China kids thing, we need to get way more serious about unlocking the potential of the youth and recognizing that the brain is plastic and it develops so fast. Up to 11, it's like lightning, crazy fast. And if in that period we set the bar low, then you just get stupid results and your country gets less capable. And I wish it weren't so. I wish at 30, you could be like undoing all of the brain wiring that you got as a kid. You're not going to be able to.
Tough. All right. Jumping into some of the news that spilled over the weekend. We saw you comments. We got yelled at. So we're going to cover them high level here. First off, let's talk about immigration. There's been sweeping raids and things that's been happening throughout the country. There's been protests, as you mentioned, in LA, where people were waving flags to countries they don't want to go back to. And Illinois has just announced a bill that allows illegal aliens to hide from ICE by changing their names on their identities. Yeah. What's your gut check with immigration? We haven't talked about it yet.
The thing on this, immigration, secure the border, last 4 years have been absolutely absurd. That's madness. That one triggers every conspiracy theory that I have. That one is so crazy that they're either so blind to the realities of human nature that they should not be let anywhere near the government, or they were running a 4D chess game like immigrants are more likely to vote blue, and so let's spread them out and make sure that we become a blue country forever and ever, all time. Now, also a just grotesque misread of the human situation because you want friction, you want the other side, you need the friction between specifically left and right as being analogous to people that lean compassion from a personality trait standpoint and people that lean personal responsibility from a personality standpoint. I think that's really, really important. So that is just so crazy to me that I cannot believe that they would ever do that. So it just makes me think maybe they really are doing something like that. So we need to secure the border. We need to deport criminals. You cannot have the most violent criminals in the world. Look at El Salvador. When you let crime run rampant, people just begin to retract. And you don't want your populace to feel like they have to constrict and stay at home and not go out. You want people to feel safe on the streets. Number one job of the government is to make sure that their people are safe. So that I think is big. Now, the thing that I really get drawn into with the immigration debate is actually more along the lines of the political fight. So the fact that they are openly defying the president tells me that for sure we're in a cold civil war within our own country between the left and the right.
A cold civil war.
No doubt. And will that escalate to hot? I don't know. On my bingo card for the next, I'll be generous, for the next 7 years is what I call pockets of violence. So I think it is inevitable that you will have pockets of violence on different issues. I hope that we don't continue to disintegrate at the state level, where people that feel more comfortable with Republicans end up going to Texas or Florida, and people that feel more comfortable with with Democrats go to Washington, Oregon, California,
Isn't
New
that already
York.
happening?
Yes, but that's what I'm saying. I don't want to see that continue to go.
Gotcha.
Because if you see that, like, I'll be the canary in the coal mine. If I bounce out of California as somebody who really just by temperament is in the center, if you've scared me that much, then that is a very bad sign. So, because what will happen then is you'll get a national divorce, and you will see places like Texas secede, you'll see California secede, and that would make me very sad for the reasons that I was saying now, which is when we're a united set of states, you can say, I don't like what California is doing, so I want to go to Texas or I want to go somewhere else. And it's all in the same country. And so it keeps the economic flow going. It's wonderful. When we begin to fragment, we'll look a lot more like Europe. And there are many dramatic sci-fi writer scenarios I can give you when you disintegrate like that. That would be, in my estimation, very bad.
I had a buddy of mine way, way long ago, and she used to say that there is no such thing as an illegal human being. So I completely understand that people are just trying to make a way for the name. They're trying to make a new life. They're just trying to get away from prosecution. I get that. I understand that. I was going to go there. I think it's like, if you get away with it, you get away with it. Like,
correct.
It's one of those things like when you're little and your parents tell you to go to sleep, and then you like wait for them to go to sleep, and you sneak under the covers and watch TV or watch movies or play video games. So like if you get away from it, it's cool. But if your parent then comes in and opens the door, you can't be mad at them that they caught you staying up past your bedtime. And that's kind of my reaction to this immigration issue, is that yes, you should have went through the right ways, and yes, all these things. My parents had to wait 15 years for a green card. But it's not even about that. It's now that the debt is due and it's time to go back, the response of trying to get out of it or try to undermine it is the thing that is just surprising to me, in that, like, you did something illegally, you got caught. I can understand if it's not the best humanitarian side. I can understand if it's not something that you wanted to do, but like you shouldn't have got caught. Like, other people didn't get caught. You did get caught. I don't know.
So your beef is that they got caught?
My beef is that they're mad they got caught. Like, if you got caught and you're sent home, like, I'm sorry, bro. Like, you should have been a better chameleon.
That's
like,
interesting. Okay. I mean, I get that at the personal level, but now make it policy. So this is why I have long believed that people, I know.
Come on, Tom. Let's go there, Tom. Let's go there.
People that run the country should have run a company at some point. Because, dude, if you've never run a company, you don't know what it's like to be on the other side of that, where you're like, hold on. If I like go, look, there's no such thing as an illegal person, and I treat you a little bit differently, then all of a sudden you see everybody else gets pissed because I'm treating you differently. So then all of a sudden you start having the conversations that Lisa and I have all the time. Hey, so-and-so's getting married. Like, let's just let them go outside of our normal policy. And then it's like, you can't do that for that person, because then the next person is like, wait, I don't ever plan to get married. I don't value marriage. I wanted to go on that family vacation. You said no to me going outside of the policy, but you said yes to them just because they're getting married. That's bullshit. And so now you're like, oh, Jesus Christ. So you begin to realize everything has to be done at the level of policy. And this is why it's like, you cannot think of it as individuals. You have to think, what's the policy? Now, where immigration gets really interesting is, what is the policy when you're trying to protect your culture? And then the question becomes, should Japan be full of Japanese? Should they let in Chinese people? Should they let in Americans? What are Americans? Do we have a culture? Should we let in anybody? Is there anything for us to protect? Is it a blue culture or a red culture? And so now all of a sudden it's like, uh-oh, now yellow racist flags are on the field, motherfuckers calling fouls every which way but loose. And it's like, there's a reality to be faced, which is the reason that parents get so freaked out over who their kids choose to marry. And this is exactly why, one of the reasons my father-in-law did not want Lisa and I to get married, was he was like, he's an American, you're a good Orthodox Greek girl, like, you guys culturally are just not going to fit. And despite the fact that we figured out how to navigate those waters, he wasn't wrong. Like when you have different cultures, you have radically different worldviews. And this is to really make this complicated and piss people off. This is exactly what you've got going on in Israel versus Palestine. It is just two worldviews that are incompatible with each other. And unless you can get them to step outside of their worldview, which, spoiler alert, 98% of the world is never going to be able to step outside of their worldview ever. They don't even want to. Their worldview feels right. It feels accurate. It feels like this is how the world is. I see it the right way. This guy's an idiot. And more terrifyingly, they assume you have their worldview and are just an evil dickhead. Not that you have a different worldview, totally different. And that if you were in their shoes, you'd be like, oh shit, okay. Now I see it from your perspective, which is why they always say, walk a mile in somebody else's shoes. What they're saying is adopt their perspective, like actually be in what they're in, their mindset, the way they view the world, and then see. So when you get collisions of cultures, which The Strange Death of Europe by Douglas Murray goes into this, dude, collisions of culture in Europe are going off like crazy, and it is causing all kinds of problems. And whether we want to accept it or not, America has a culture. Now, that culture is not based on ethnicity, which is one of the cool fucking things about being in America, but it still has a culture. And so if you let people just flood in and you're not doing anything at the level of policy to protect that culture, you run into the marriage problem. You now have people that are fighting over policies and how things should be done, and you just begin to tear the cohesion of that society apart. And societies always, always, always collapse from within. It is very hard to conquer a nation, even when you outnumber them, if they're really solidly together. Think about when the US wasn't the US, it was just some colonies, and they went up against the most powerful military in the world and beat them because they had a bigger mission. They believed in something. There was a thing that united them. And the second you take that away, now you divide and conquer.
Very good, very good. We shall see. Immigration is still something that is not going away because they're still doing raids. They're still protesting. So we'll see how this actually impacts and what the final numbers of deportation will be.
No doubt.
Also over the weekend, the big T tariffs were enacted
and
quickly taken away. So
people thought we were dodging this, by the way. I was like, bitch, please.
We were letting it breathe, okay? We're not breaking
news.
This
is where, unfortunately, we don't film on the same day. So we film, a Monday episode is going to be filmed on Friday, though. We're working on that. Maybe one day it will be filmed in real time. So we weren't dodging it, which I'm not even sure why people thought we would dodge it.
And it was an announcement that like he didn't even do nothing yet. That's my thing, is that he talked about a 25% tariff on Mexico, Canada, and an additional 10% on China to what he did in his first term that is still there. However, after some Trump-style after some Trump-style negotiations, both countries, Mexico and Canada, ended up caving as long as they secured the border. So Mexico sent 10,000 of their National Guard to the border to stop the flow of fentanyl, and Canada sent 10,000 troops, but they packaged it in their $1.5 billion border technology initiative, where Trudeau was talking about they're sending choppers and they're going to have surveillance technology and things like that to monitor the border more closely. So Trump said, thank you for doing this. We'll suspend these tariffs for 30 days. However,
just so we don't have to fight through a river of comments, yes, I'm aware that the Trudeau had announced a lot of that package, like back in May or something.
Yeah.
So some of it is political theater for sure. Trump taking a victory lap for some of it, which may not have had anything to do with it. Maybe he got additional concessions, whatever.
Yeah.
But he got what he supposedly wanted for his tariff play.
Yeah.
It's all negotiations.
But China, on the other hand, they countered with 15% tariffs of their own and an investigation into Google. They're claiming it might be a monopoly antitrust agreement.
Jesus,
so
man.
they're like,
Cold
y'all coming
wars
for
are
TikTok, we coming for Google then.
Yeah. If people think that they're going to bully China, they are out of their minds. Now, this comes from Ray Dalio, who's been going over there for decades, has worked very closely with the government, that they have a stated national policy of you don't have to confront everything head on. Like you do your Belt and Road initiatives, you work in other ways. Instead of doing the direct conflict, it's more of a Sun Tzu Art of War kind of thing of using the mind far more than just might. And that you lose a fight if you have to actually engage in the combat itself. So yeah, mess with China at your peril. Now, we do have to be strong, and we do have to play our cards in a way that's keeping with the American character and all of that stuff. So I'm not mad at Trump for, he's drawing lines and he's telling people this is how we're going to be treated. And he's using very strong negotiating tactics, and we'll see how it all plays out. But China is a peer competitor economically. They are not going to back down easily. They have more military might in the Asian region than we do. So they know we can't roll up and like try to slap them around. That's never going to play. So this is going to be fascinating to watch. This is what a Cold War feels like. And again, I'd much rather a Cold War than a kinetic war, but I think at this point, we just have to embrace, this is not a globalist moment. This is a populist moment. This is a protectionist moment. We're going to be bringing manufacturing back to the United States. That's going to come with some economic pain in the short term, but long term, if we can pull it off, it will be very advantageous. And if we don't start dealing with the Panama Canal and the fact that China has too much control over that, if we don't start dealing with the fact that so many things that we rely on are manufactured in China, if we don't start dealing with that now, we're really going to be in trouble.
I've seen a tweet, I can't remember who it was by, that said we're kind of in a anti-World War II moment where back then, after we won the war, America kind of sent a bunch of love and money to other countries to help and build and reconstruct. And now that bill is due, you can kind of say, like, instead of us being the leading with love and trying to aid, we're now like, hey, we've been paying y'all a lot. It's time to run them pockets. Like we're trying to get things back to us. To your point, like we're kind of moving away from globalism to kind of nationalist. Do you think that is the right move just in general, or do you think it's a temporary blip in the map?
I think this is the reality of debt cycles. And here's the thing. If people want me to talk about physics without talking about gravity, I can't do it. If people want me to talk about geopolitics without talking about the inflation of the money supply, I can't do it. The reality is these debt cycles are huge. They are understandable. They move in very predictable ways. And the reality is when you start inflating the money supply the way that we do it, people start feeling like, I can't get ahead. They start feeling like the pie is finite, and they want a populist leader that's going to go slap people around and get them their shit back. They want somebody to go to China and say, fuck you, manufacturing's coming back to the US. We're not outsourcing all this stuff to you anymore. That's what the people want. And they want it because of where we're at in the debt cycle. And the sooner people can embrace the reality of that human nature has just a predictable loop that it goes on. And that's the part of the cycle that we're in. Now, the only question for me is, there are two ways out of the cycle. Way number one is the typical way, and that is what's known as Thucydides' trap, where you have a rising power going up against a declining power in a point where the declining power feels like they're basically in a fight for their lives in terms of staying the dominant force, finite pie, all that stuff. And so they're on a collision course. The declining power, the US, is just not going to accept that China's better than us. We're not going to accept it. Full stop, period, end of story, not going to happen. So now it's, you just keep, first it's tariffs and the Panama Canal, and then it's Taiwan, and it just escalates. And then these two big powers ultimately collapse. Okay, that's way number one. Way more typical. Much higher percentage of when you go back in history and look at how these cycles end up. They end in something called a debt jubilee. It has a great name, but it actually is bloodshed. It's where you tip over the tables and you cancel everybody's debt, which sounds lovely because everybody's a debt holder. The problem is that you've got a ton of people that also have debt as an asset. So for instance, I own a ton of US government debt. So the government has borrowed money from me and countless other people. And when those tables get flipped, that just all goes away. The government doesn't owe me money anymore. And so now the thing known as the risk-free rate of return owning US treasuries, poof, it's 100% risk. It is you lose all your money. So, and that happens in a million different ways with all kinds of different debt. And so it is a moment of extreme turmoil that becomes so violent and so painful that whoever loses that kinetic war exchange just goes, I just can't watch another person die. I don't give a fuck. I'll be 10th in the world, 20th in the world. I don't care. Please just stop shooting people. And so that's how a new world order arises. And don't let me forget to come back to America and the Marshall Plan and everything that we did there, because it was really a brilliant move. But I do want to contrast it with this populist moment that we're in and why we're in it. So that's Thucydides' trap is number one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, option number two is that you innovate your way out of this and you show people again that the pie is gigantic. Now, what's utterly fascinating about this moment with Trump is that he's both on the grow camp as the billionaire entrepreneur. Say what you want about him, but this guy has become president twice. If you want to say he's dumb, he's a schlub, he doesn't know what he's doing in business, that is so fucking ignorant. That is a read of the world I can't even make sense of. Hey, one of the most successful people in the world is secretly a moron. It's like, wow, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, he is both for growth, unlocking regulation, making sure that we are the masters of AI so that we can get our GDP to say 4 or 5%. If we can get our GDP to 4 or 5% and stop the crazy deficit spending, now all of a sudden that starts coming back down and you get back into that jubilant period. It's the roaring 20s, hopefully with no 1929 looming on the horizon, but it's the roaring 20s. There's just so much capital flowing through the system. We're bringing manufacturing back. We're able to take care of ourselves. And you do that by being strong internationally, by doing the trade war, by making sure that we're not being quote unquote taken advantage of by people that sell us a bunch of stuff, but don't let us sell to them. And you say, hold on a second, we're the biggest economy in the world and we're going to be treated with that due respect. Now, it's kind of an icky dickish move, at least if you're wired like me and you don't want to walk in like that guy. But hey, to protect the American people, to restore us to prominence, you have to do that. And so if we can grow our way out of it, that could help us avoid a kinetic war, and it could just make an incredible period of time here in America. Nothing lasts forever, but you certainly hope that it can last for a decade, a couple decades. Like we could really have a special time. And if we can drive the debt down and then be more fiscally responsible, so we're not in that death loop of the debt cycle, you're in a great spot. So to me, going back to the black ice thing, this is just a moment of, I can't see far enough into the future based on how aggressive he's being, how fast he's moving, how much political theater there is, how much already cold civil war there is between the two sides. Does the group of people that hate Trump snap and we go into an actual civil war in America? Or do we slip a little bit now and then, but the tires always regrip and we keep moving forward? My optimistic brain says, we're going to slide a little bit here or there, little pockets of violence, nothing crazy. We're going to keep moving forward. We are going to unlock all that economic potential. AI is going to come and just continually make things better and better, despite everyone knows my thoughts. It will be a rocky transition. So that's the one. If you ignore what I say and look at what I do, I still live in California. I'm still invested. I've got my assets deployed. It's not buried in the backyard. I'm acting like a person who believes the future is stable. So clearly at some deep level, that is what my gut actually believes. The other stuff, though, I think you ignore at your own peril. You need to look directly at, okay, Thucydides' trap is real. We could certainly be going down that path. What would I do if we were? What do I think the odds are? Like, you have to think through it. But gun to my head, my behavior says that I think we're going to be okay.
I hope so too. And at the end of the day, at least we're home. We can't say the same for the Palestinians, though, because Trump has a scathing realization in this next video.
This is crazy.
How many people are you thinking about?
All of them. I mean, we're talking about probably 1.7 million people, 1.7 million, maybe 1.8 million. But I think all of them. I think they'll be resettled in areas where they can live a beautiful life and not be worried about dying every day.
Okay, do me a favor before we dive into this. Pull up the definition of ethnic cleansing. The mass expulsion or killing of members of an unwanted ethnic or religious group in a society. Okay, strip out the words killing and unwanted and just leave the mass expulsion of members of an ethnic or religious group in a society. And that's literally what he just said. So when I heard that, I was like, whoa, okay, well, I guess if you say anything casually enough that
it's okay.
Yeah, that, hey, here we are. So this unlocks a conversation that I don't know how to make sense of. You have a stalemate for 80 years. I think it's roughly 80 years. Yeah. Some people will clock it way back before that, but post, I think when the Brits last said, okay, this is the division, I'll clock it there. And I'm certainly not a scholar in this region, but you have a stalemate for a very long period of time, constant fighting back and forth, a lot of death. You have October 7th, where it's like, enough is enough. We've tried their perception. We've tried everything. We're not getting anywhere. Whether it's an act of resistance or not, you're never going to get anything other than the response that you got by doing that. So going back to what is the effective result of something versus the designed result, you weren't going to get your freedom. I don't know what word they would have used by doing October 7th. You were always going to get blasted back to the Stone Ages. Mm-hmm. So not saying that's good. I'm just saying that was the obvious outcome of what happened. So, and now it's happened. And is it possible that despite the horrors of all of this, that a complete and total military victory was the thing that ends up bringing peace? I don't know. And I don't know what to do if it is, because it's so horrifying, morally. It's October 7th was a moral abomination, leveling an entire, I don't know what word will not make half the side angry, whether you want to call it a nation state, whether you want to call it just a location where people live.
The killing of kids, the killing of hospitals, schools.
It's all bad mojo.
It's all bad.
Now,
and we
again,
condemn all of that.
This was the outcome that was going to happen the second they did October 7th. So, but it's all so horrible. So anyway, you and I were talking before we started rolling. Here's how I look at this. I read a lot about history. I read a lot about America. My words, the conquering of America. And it's unreal. But it's all history. It's long ago. And I'm sitting here in Los Angeles, California, and you read about how we had a president named Polk. Pull him up really fast. I've only ever heard his name. I've never seen it in writing. I want to make sure it is Polk. I'm pretty sure that it is. There we go. So James Polk is the guy that made America go from sea to shining sea. So he attacks Mexico. And even, I'm pretty sure it was Ulysses S. Grant. Oh God, one of the major generals from the Civil War fought in that. And he and many other people were like, yo, this is a stain on America. Like, I don't know how we move forward. Like, this is so horrible. This was a weaker army that we just came in and just took their land. And yet the outcome for modern day Americans is we have the greatest country on earth. We have the strongest economy. I mean, it's just unbelievable what we did with ill-gotten gains. And so it's like, they are both ill-gotten gains and a great outcome. So what do you do if, despite the horror, that only a decisive military victory was the thing that was ever going to bring peace? I don't know what to do with that. I don't know how to think about it, because reading about it happening in history is one thing. Watching it play out is a whole different thing. And I don't know how to close that loop in my own mind. So it'll be interesting to see what actually happens. But if they can, being generous here, if they can take the displaced Gazans, Palestinians, and put them in decent housing. I don't know what that looks like, but getting the other Arab countries to bring them in, which is not going to be easy. As far as I know, both Jordan and Egypt have said, hell no. But let's say that they do, and that America stays uninvolved in, and Israel stays uninvolved in the rebuilding of Gaza. And then somehow, some way, it would have to be some sort of partnership. Either it becomes another thing like the United Arab Emirates, where it's like different groups that are sharing the governance of this region. I don't know, man. I don't know if it's going to be a Palestinian state. I don't know what ends up happening, but there's one more piece I have to put on this table so people understand the open loop that's in my mind. At the international level, this is what is freaking me out about this moment, is for most of my life, it felt like humans had an innate desire to cooperate and that the world was largely stable. We had like the weirdness with Russia, but that was nonviolent. We never launched weapons at each other. They broke apart inside, and at least the stuff that I was able to understand, because I was pretty young when it happened, but it was all peaceful. It was just like, hey, we're going to break into this country and this country. And I was like, wow, like that's amazing. The wall comes down, families are reunited. In Germany, I'm talking. And then in Russia, they break up into different states. We won the Cold War. We were the good guys. They're the bad guys anyway. Like this is all phenomenal. Like this all just played out amazingly. And so I just in the back of my head had this vision of the world is a stable place where rational actors win and all is well. And now I'm being reminded that that's an illusion. And the only thing that has ever been real is what's known as master morality. Now, master morality is whatever is strong is right. And I'm not asking people to believe in it. I'm just saying, if you can beat somebody, kill them, take their stuff, you will. And that person will die and they will lose all their stuff. And that is history. History is strong people conquer weak people and they take their shit. That's history. Forever and ever and ever, all the way back. Look at Native American tribes. Like you don't even have to hate the white man to see that everybody does this. And so those tribes warred for God knows how long before we got here, doing the same thing. The strong tribes wiped out the weak tribes, just is what it is. Goes back forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. And now I'm reminded, oh yeah, that's still us. We still live in that world of ultra violence, and the strong are going to do what they will. And what we're seeing now is America reasserting its dominance. And so all of a sudden it's visible. It's not invisible. It's not behind the scenes. It's not clandestine. It's like Trump banging drums and telling people something strong is going to happen. I forget the exact words he used with Panama, but it's like, we're either going to get control of it or something strong is going to happen. I forget, but certainly not friendly language. More and more and more of that. You've got a power conflict happening between Russia and Ukraine. You've got a cold power conflict between us and Russia. You've got a power conflict going on between Israel and Palestine. It's just all these different power conflicts playing out all over the world. And all of a sudden I'm like, ooh, how far do these power conflicts go? Like, do they just keep ratcheting up? And so there's something about seeing how everything is played out in Gaza that makes me go, yeah, it's still the playbook. A decisive military victory is how you gain peace. And it's hideous.
It's definitely one of those things that when we look back in 100 years, the Palestinians will be the Native Americans, and we're all on the sidelines kind of watching this happen. But the Gaza Strip's going to have a resort on it, and it's going to be really cool, and it's probably going to be a vacation destination, and people aren't even going to talk about it. But in this moment, there's 1,000,007, 1,000,008 people who cannot go home anymore, and that it sucks. And I understand. Then I condemn terrorist attacks. I condemn killing kids. I condemn all those things. But the fact that the solution, to your point, is those people to be ethnically cleansed.
Let me be very a solution.
A solution. The solution that
I wish
Trump is
it
putting on the
hadn't
table.
come to
It's
this.
not coming from
No,
us.
he didn't put it on the table. It's already happened. This is what I'm saying. The thing that freaked me out is I realized, oh shit, it's already done. It's already over. There's nothing for them to go back to. Like
Everything's
just
bombed. It's rubble.
yeah. It's like, that's when I was like, oh shit. Admittedly, I have a feeling people are going to push back and say, Tom, fuckwit, you can't remove those words. This isn't ethnic cleansing because it's not that they were unwanted. It's that they had to root out the terrorist group. Great. Like, I really don't want to get mired in that part of the conversation. That part of the conversation to me is irrelevant. What I'm trying to point out is the whole world is one big fuck around and find out. It's all fuck around and find out. We're going to fuck around with China and find out. China's going to fuck around with us and find out. Russia's going to fuck with Ukraine and find out. Ukraine is going to perhaps get audited and either we stole a bunch of money, they stole, who the fuck, I don't know yet. Somebody's fucking around and they about to find out. So it's just like, dude, it's fuck around and find out as far as the eye can see. And again, because America has turned into this phenomenal country, and I've got the distance where I feel literally no guilt whatsoever. I wasn't there. I didn't do any of it. But this is a rad country and I'm living here and this has been going on for time immemorial. There's just something unnerving about realizing that this is the game that humans play.
And it's still happening live.
And it will always happen until something fundamental changes in the human architecture.
Yeah. Well, there is something fundamentally happening with humans that's changing, and that is AI creation.
Here we go. Nice transition, Drew.
I'm trying. I wanted to get us away from that.
We got out of it smooth. I like it.
To get out of that one. So here are 10 wild examples of people, places, like conversations. There's a Albert Einstein style talk. There was a country singer. There was a TED Talk one I wanted to pull up. This lady, it's an AI TED Talk. It's just amazing how real fake things are becoming.
Yeah.
Like, is this unnerving? How do you feel about seeing omni-human from AI?
Okay, so step one, yes, it is incredibly unnerving because in the period before all the security stuff gets put in place, this is going to be devastating. It's just going to be mass chaos, mass chaos. Everyone's impulse is going to be to control this from the top down. That's a mistake. So all of that's freaky. But then I go, as a creator, I can now, not right now. Right now, you could make a short film with dialogue. You have to work around some of the weaknesses of AI, but you can make like a 7 or 8 minute compelling short about, I saw one of a kaiju invasion where it wasn't Godzilla, but that kind of monster is like wrecking a city and this kid's like up on a rooftop and he's calling his mom. Dude, it was done so well. And I was like, whoa. That was probably one person over like a week, maybe 2, like doing it and refining it. And I just thought, hold on, I've got a team of people literally right now as we're recording this in Berlin, trying to raise funds for our Mary Maud's animated film. And I've often run the thought experiment, okay, what do I do? Like if we don't get funding for it, like how hard do I keep pushing that thing? Do I just say, okay, we need to move on to the next piece of IP? And now I'm like, wait 6 months and make it. Like myself on a long weekend. It's getting to that point.
Wow.
Now, it's not going to be 6 months. Yeah. It's going to be 3 years.
Yeah.
But the fact that, let's say I'm crazy about 3 years and it's 5 years, it's not going to be 5 years. I literally can't even imagine that it would ever take that long because it's already so good. You just need the controls. So in 3 to 5 years, I'm going to, by myself, be able to make a Pixar quality animated film if I can write, because maybe AI gets that good. Right now, I don't. I think it's going to have a hard time with that.
Yeah.
But you telling it exactly what to do, it's next level. It's next level. So as with all things AI and any major technological breakthrough, there is a little bit of like, ooh, the transition's going to be weird. But long term, this is going to be unreal. Now, I don't know if there's going to be a narrow window or if my future is all of the dreams that I've had since I was 12 are finally going to come true because of AI. Like that's been over the last couple of weeks, I've been interfacing with it, working on the screenplay with it. And it is, you feel like you're getting to know somebody. It's crazy. It's crazy. And it's so good at reflecting you back to you, which is like the ultimate human trick. So yeah, anyway, I won't fractal on that, but it is, man, it's interesting. Right now I'm back in like a honeymoon phase with AI. And that's a good sign. The closer I am to it, the more time I spend with it, the more updates come out, the more I'm falling in love on the positive side.
Nice. Yeah, we'll see. I might need to create me an omni-human to date because the streets are trash. We need like a theme song.
The streets are trash.
Now let's talk about dating again. Okay, so this was an interesting thing that one of our coworkers kind of dropped into the Slack channel and it kind of created discourse, so we had to bring it to the show. So here it goes. My friend was the only girl at Hackathon and somebody gave her this note. The note reads, "Hey, I think you're pretty cute and I love these 2 braids in the back of your hair. Let me take you out sometime. I'd love a lesson from you on how to hack. LOL. Text me, number. Now, to me, this seemed like innocent and cute. And then we got some comments that were just kind of ripping it up. Some people thinking it was childish. There were some comments that were talking about how women can't be in boys only spaces because they feel like shiny Pokemon. There was just a bunch of kind of discourse. So I wanted to kind of get your opinion on what is it like breaking the ice? How do you recommend people kind of ask out? How do they gauge those waters? What's kind of...
Well, first let me do a PSA. Dear young people who are out on the dating scene, or old people for that matter, the game is to go from, "Hi, my name is," to swapping bodily fluid. That's a really weird chasm to cross.
Jeez.
If people are a little awkward in that, please show them some grace. If they're disgusting, hey, fuck that. Tell them absolutely not, hard line. But he said, "I think you're really cute. And I love those 2 braids in the back of your hair." Like, this is the most innocuous thing ever. And humans are designed to find each other romantically, quite literally. I mean, forget that. Humans are designed to find each other sexually. And romance is one of the things that we do to soften the blow. So it is so weird to me that a frame of reference has cropped up in dating circles where that's considered like, oh God, they won't leave me alone.
Yeah.
If I got a letter from somebody and I was made really uncomfortable by it, the immediate, first of all, what I was saying earlier, I go, ooh, why am I so uncomfortable with this? Oh, I'm uncomfortable with this because I'm not attracted to that person. Or I think that person thinks I would go for them. Oh my God, like they're devaluing me on the sexual market. Like, this is crazy. This is my beloved wife. As soon as she hears us talking about relationships, let's go, Bill, you get in here. So
I was peeking in. I was like, all right, what are they going to say?
So, okay, we got Tom's opinion. From Lisa, from a woman's perspective, like, a guy likes you, he's trying to bridge the gap. This is not like a sweaty bar. This is not, 2 a.m. and he's asking if you are up. It's like...
You're at a business conference where you're trying to be taken seriously as a business person. You're one of the only women there. It's a bunch of guys. And then one guy slips you that note.
Hey, I think you're really cute and I love this. Oh, those 2 braids. Oh, I'd be so flattered. The back of your head, let me take you out sometime. I'd love a lesson from you on how to...
Hack. They're at a hackathon.
Yeah, they're at a hackathon.
I think that's super sweet. So I've always been the person that I know at some point in my life, I'm not going to be attractive to other people. So I'm going to be 80, 90, even in my hundreds, because I plan to live till I'm 100. I don't think guys are going to be hitting on me. So I go, take the compliment. As long as they're not, I've got a line.
Yeah.
If you cross that line, you will see the wrath of Lisa. But if it's not disrespectful, if it's sweet, if it's kind, if it's flattering, take it for what it is. And then, like what I would say, if I was married, thank you so much. This is so sweet. I'm married, but thank you for the compliment. And then I would come
what if
home
you weren't married?
and I would tell him.
And say, now it's like, uh-oh, I've got to deal with this directly.
I would say, thank you so much. This is so sweet, but it's a no. Thank you for asking. Like, I would politely decline. And I think that I worry where people just dismiss people. I actually heard you say, I'm sure it's really freaking hard for a guy to go up to a woman and chat her up. Like, as a woman, to talk to somebody, to even talk to another woman, if you're a bar and you just like want to make friends with her because you're like, oh my God, I like her handbag. it sometimes takes courage to go up to him and be like, I really like your handbag, or I really like your dress. So I have the empathy for the guy. And so I would urge, was this like hate? Was someone actually...
Well, she posted it basically saying like, can you believe?
Oh, well, that's sad on her. I feel bad for her. Because
Why do you feel bad for her?
Because what has happened in her life where she took a compliment as a crossing the line, insulting, like something has clearly happened in her life for her to respond like that. So I always have empathy as well to be like, if this was true, in fact, we talk about this all the time. If I was writing a script right now, what would have to be true for her to respond like that? It means that somebody probably complimented her once and she was very flattered, and maybe that ended up being abused, or maybe that went too far and he just didn't leave her alone, and now she feels like, I can't even protect myself because the last time someone did this, they stalked me. Like, stalking is real. There's some crazy stat about where you go from being a bother to stalking to actually killing someone, and the stalking is like the next step, or the step right before killing. Not to get gruesome, but I can understand if you've come from that, that's why she responds like this. So I think that there's two sides to this that you can't ignore.
Okay, I'm gonna push you now, because now you're in the show. Now you're in the hot seat.
I'm in my jacket.
Now you're in the hot seat.
It's hot. I wish I'd known.
Okay,
right,
so
go for it.
what Lisa said was, it's okay. I give empathy to the guy. You know, what it takes a lot of work to chat somebody up. So what if hypothetically, a guy might have used a chat bot to chat you up, which is our next situation, where a guy and a girl met on a dating app, and I'm sure she was LOLing and LMAOing everything he said. They set up a date, and then he kind of gave her this disclaimer. Also, before we go any further, in interest of transparency, I did use a bot to reply to some of your messages. I run an AA testing AI chatbot startup and like testing it in the real world sometimes. But from here on out, it's all me.
Delete.
So the empathy's out the door.
Of course. For the guy, yeah, because so a guy sent that, right?
Yeah,
okay.
a guy said.
He is so damn lazy that he's using a bot to go out to all these women and then sift through them to then come to see which one is right for him, so he doesn't waste his time. The whole point of dating is you experiment. You go on a date. I find this guy attractive, and then after the first 5 minutes, they could be like not entertaining. But the whole point is, you look horrified. Why?
No, because you got this from, he didn't say he has a legion of AI chatbots like spamming people. Like, this was like, I met a pretty girl that we both swiped right. I don't know what to say. What did she say? Maybe he got ChatGPT and he's asking for advice. I don't know if it's necessarily like you said legion. Like
Hard pass.
A legion of chatbots was crazy.
This guy literally says, I own an AI company and I'm testing my bot on you.
So yeah, that's you empathizing with the dude. Where it's like, come on now. Like, if this was a job, I get it. You've only got a certain amount of time to, let's say, sift through resumes. And so if you're running a company and you have to sift through resumes, you need a system in which to optimize going through those resumes. But if you actually want a relationship for life, you have to take the risk. That's the whole point. The whole point is us dating from different sides of the world and going, I hope you don't cheat on me. There was no text messaging back then. So you're putting faith, you're putting communication ahead of everything to see if this works. And so if you're just too lazy to freaking do it, and you just want to get past stage 1, stage 2, and you want to jump straight to stage 3 with me, sorry, I'm not here for that.
All right, I'm not mad at that.
She's so chuffed with herself on that answer.
No bots.
I have a different take on that. I think this is the kind of thing you don't confess until date 3. That just like, if you're gonna chatbot people, don't tell them right away, man. Like, find out if you guys have any chemistry or not. But
very good
yeah,
That's true.
It's also just high risk. Yeah, I don't know why he would do that unless, because he owns the company, I'll let him off the hook. But admitting that at this stage, like, that's just
the only last thing I'll say, and I'll leave, is if it was ChatGPT because he was too shy, say that. I find you so beautiful, I'm actually a little nervous, and so I've just used the chatbot just to help me with the communication.
P.S. guys, this is the worst advice you've ever heard in your life. Don't say, run!
No,
run!
if you want to hear from the woman, I'm telling you, that's what
Okay, whoa.
Yeah.
Let me tell you right now how I finally got this woman here to sleep with me. I had to project confidence.
Of course.
I could not be like, I'm so shy. I had to have a chatbot. I couldn't talk to you. Fuck that. She would not have gone out with me for a second. Do not let women lie to you. This is what I hate. It's like, dude, this is why men are so fucking confused. Women will tell you some shit on camera that is not real in real life. You have to be confident. You have to find your swagger. I don't care how you do it. It's got to be real, but you've got to find some swagger. And if you don't, you're going to roll up on date one with custom written poetry and flowers, and you are not going to get laid. I'm telling you right now, as somebody who went through it. Not the play.
All right,
I
think I hit something. That's all.
Right.
That's all I got. I'm done.
All right, everybody. If you're not already, follow me on Twitch at Tom Bilyeu, and hit up that podcast if you prefer podcasts. Otherwise, subscribe here on YouTube. Until next time, my friends, be legendary. Take care. Peace. If you're a business owner looking to scale, I can help. I assume you're here because you know the world is a freakishly complicated place, but with the right rubric for decision making, you can navigate even the most complex problems well. After scaling my last company to $1 billion exit, I knew I had a winning formula, something I call the physics of progress. It works in any industry, in any economic climate, bull market, bear market, doesn't matter. Every complex problem can be solved if you know how to approach it from first principles. In the end, that's how you avoid getting trapped in plateaus. Think about the biggest challenge facing your business right now. Maybe your revenue drops every time you step away. Maybe your industry is affected by tariffs, or your business partner is holding you back. Maybe your marketing is no longer working, or you hate social media and everyone tells you that's where you have to be. These problems can seem impossible until you approach them from first principles. That's exactly what I teach inside the $1 Billion CEO program. I'm only working with a select group of entrepreneurs right now, but if you've got a real business and are looking to scale, apply now. Visit impacttheory.com/scaling or click the link in the show notes to apply. Again, that's impacttheory.com/scaling. If you like this conversation, check out this episode to learn more. Welcome to the future, everybody. OpenAI has dropped its O3 model. Tesla's latest robot flexes hard on Hoover. China freaks me out with more drones, a lot more. And Eric Weinstein fires a warning shot at the government for lying and incompetent.